Welcome to my American History Notes, where I read from the conclusions I've drawn studying American history. Conclusions you might not agree with, but I just hope that you'll study and have your own conclusions and interpretations. And this is just a very much a survey, a surface thing. Don't get real deep into stuff, but just stuff that you should maybe remember if you want to be conversant in American history. And I'm going to talk, still talking about Reagan. Still have a few things in his reign, his era, his administration. In November of 1986, the country learned that a top White House national security official had visited Iran. It was learned that the White House had sold military hardware and spare parts to Iran and diverted some of the proceeds to the Contras in Nicaragua. Congress had passed a law outlawing U.S. government military aid to these forces. An outraged Congress ordered a full investigation, and this ordeal became known as the Iran-Contra scandal. The president's national security advisor, Admiral John Poindexter, resigned, and his deputy, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, was dismissed from his post. Reagan, for all the good things he did, he referred to at a conservative conference, he referred to the Contras as like our founding fathers, which was very much mistaken. They were simply the former thugs of Somoza, who were now fighting the communists who had taken their game. So, his that was sort of like public relations, propaganda. But I don't think we should hold that against him. But this is a scandal that grew even greater when Colonel North revealed that he had destroyed documents to cover up the investigation. The president appointed a commission to investigate, and Congress televised hearings in the summer of 1987. Now, a special prosecutor was named, and both Poindexter and North were indicted for illegal activities, with their actual trials postponed until after the upcoming elections. After the severe recession of 1981 and 82, the American economy experienced the longest peacetime expansion in its history, continuing throughout the Reagan years in spite of upheavals on Wall Street. The unemployment rate reached a 14-year low in June and again in October of 1988 when it dropped to 5.2%. 117 million Americans, more than at any time in history, held jobs. However, the nation's trade deficit soared during the 1980s, and the U.S. became the world's largest debtor nation. As the dollar hit 40-year highs against other currencies, foreigners could not afford to buy U.S. products, but Americans were buying foreign products in huge amounts. The trade deficit reached an all-time record of $159.2 billion in 1987. Excuse me. The New York Stock Exchange experienced the longest bull market aggressive in its history. The Dow Jones Industrial Average stood in the low 800s in 1982, but soared to 2722.42 by August 25th, 1987. Then on the 19th of October of that year, the New York Stock Exchange suffered the worst day in its history, and the Dow dropped 508 points in frantic trading. This decline was greater than the crash of 1929, but this time, the resilient American economy continued to expand in spite of the fact that every financial market around the world fell dramatically. Now, understand what I've said here is oversimplified, and the long term consequences of governmental interference in the nation's economy over the past century have been devastating. Our buying power is a fraction of what it was in years past, and we were able to maintain a higher lifestyle than our ancestors, mostly due to irresponsible credit policies and incredible amounts of personal debt, which our forefathers would have thought was insane. And I'm going to try to touch on that in a special topics class if I can. So I'm going to stop for now, and then we're going to go to talk about Manuel Noriega and a few other things coming up, and we'll kind of segue into the Bush administration, first Bush administration. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll study American history and have an opinion about it.